the biggest issue we face is how do we verify or how do we benchmark, how do we measure between different cloud providers in terms of the level of security. You know, the joke about being a cloud provider, I think is still valid today is this. You know, let's say, I always have to use Yao Seng as an example. So, let's say Yao Seng and I could start a cloud company tomorrow. Let's say he lives in Jurong, I live in Changi. And we just get 2 PCs from Sim Square and run some open source hypervisor, put out a fantastically looking self-service portal, integrate with PayPal so they can pay for it. And there you have it. We have a geographically distributed, one in Changi, one in Jurong. We got 2 PCs running under our bed. Okay, subscribing to some fiber broadband unlimited bandwidth plan. I think there's an unlimited bandwidth plan now available from the fiber providers. And there you have it. We have a CSP that's running with 2 PC under my bed and 2 PC under his bed. Okay, with a nicely developed self-service portal, with integration with credit card payment, real-time payment. Isn't that a cloud service provider? It is, right? I'm running industry-grade hypervisor, quote unquote, open source hypervisor. And when you send a request to provision a VM, I will then manually do it behind the scene because I may just receive an email or SMS alert, you know, and that you may think that, oh, it's auto provisioning. Okay. Now, how do we discern between different cloud service provider? In short, we just call it CSP here, right? And you guys being the cloud service customer, in short, we call it CSC. So we need something that provides an independent verification, a trusted, independent third-party verification on the reliability and the security of the various cloud service provider. And that gives the background of why MTCS came about. As you can see here, the objective of the MTCS says a lot, but the real objective, in summary, is to provide a common yardstick at which the CSP could be measured, at which CSC, cloud service customers like you, could have an objective measurement of the various CSP's security control or posture. Okay, so this is a pretty, I would say, an important step that NCCO has taken to spearhead because it's a public good. At the end of the day, the beneficiary are customers like you who would like to adopt cloud, but wondering how do I then measure and access the different level of security. Now, in all fairness, it is also pretty unreasonable for the CSP to open the books or to open the infrastructure to every customer who want to come on board. If the CSP has 365 customers, and every customer has now the right to audit the CSP infrastructure or the services, you know, in that 365 days a year, every day the CSP will be spent doing the audit. It's not fair, and it's not economical for a CSP to be subjected to individual audit by every single customer that's out. Okay. Now, this was the structure of how the team that actually developed the standard. As you can see, we have the working group, the standards development body. We got industry players. I'll show you the structure of the working group later. Who are the members? Okay. I believe during the development of standard, there were pilot groups. There was pilot feedback groups. Feedback session that was conducted with the CSP, with the auditors, and even with some of the primary industry users. Okay. Now, of course, at the top, as with all Singapore standards, especially in the area of IT, it has to be approved by the ITSC. So, and being managed or being owned by Spring Singapore. So these are the governing body. Okay. So as you can see in the next slide, these are the members who are involved in the development or the formation or formulation of the standards. Can I even mention who's the vendor's name who wrote it? I shouldn't. Okay. So the consultant that was engaged to actually write and draft the standard was PwC. So, but the members in the working group was involved in the review and the multiple revision of the draft before it became the current state. Okay. Now, the various structure, if you can look at it, of what comprises the available standards out there in the market, and how MTCS fit in the picture. You can see from the diagram here. Let me see where there's a laser pointer. Now, the base standard that MTCS is based on is the ISO 27001, which I believe you guys have heard of it. Okay, the ISMS certification. So if you are ISO 27001 certified CSP, I think there's only 64 gaps or deltas that you need to look at, or controls you need to look at before you can get MTCS certification. So you do not need to be certified from scratch. Now, of course, if you are not ISO 27001 certified, you can still go for the MTCS certification, just that there's more work for you to do. Okay, more controls will comply. Now, that being said, if you are MTCS certified, I'm pretty confident you can get an ISO 27000 certification, because MTCS is like a 27001 plus. There's a additional, as mentioned, 64 controls on top of the ISO 27000. So depending on where you are, if you are already ISO 27001 certified, you can just go for the Delta to verify the additional 64 controls, and you can get your MTCS certification. If you are not ISO 27001 certified, you can jump straight to the MTCS certification, and I believe you can talk to your CBs, your certification bodies. Since they've already done the MTCS audit, maybe you can get your ISO 27001 along the way. Okay. Now, the idea, as you can see from the name, is multi-tiered model. So MTCS, the lower level, level 1, provide a common platform. But at level 3, we are looking at potentially industry-specific application of these standards, where you may have industry-specific regulations, controls. So earlier you heard from Hin Hien, Dr. Lee, that the healthcare sector might be a very keen user of the MTCS in the next phase. We hope you already know the government is using it. We hope other sectoral players like the financial sector, okay, hopefully they could, the regulator, especially MAS, could accept it. So healthcare, government, these two are already two key users of MTCS. We hope finance could come on board too. Okay. Now, if you are aware of any other sectors that you operate in, that you find that MTCS may be applicable, feel free to approach NCCO. I think NCCO would love to promote that the MTCS standards in the particular sector that you are working in. Okay. As mentioned earlier, there are 3 tiers. So level 1, we are looking at potentially non-critical, business critical functions. For example, it could be used for your testing and development, performance testing, functional testing uses, where you do not actually have business critical data, or you may not even have personal data, real personal data. You may have test data belonging to fake individuals, for example. Now, level 1 will be ideal. So if you have such a use case scenario or such needs, and you do not have any business critical functions that you want to go on cloud, a level 1 certified CSP will be somewhat suitable for your needs. Okay. Now level 2, that's where we go into more business critical data. Over here, concerns like Personal Data Protection Act, so on and so forth, are applicable. So over here, if you have something that contains personal data, that contains your vital information related to your organization, okay, they may not be regulatory compliance related. That's where level 2 comes in. Now level 3, that's where the sectorial regulations controls would come in. So in the formulation of MTCS, we have looked at PCI, we have looked at MASTRM, we have looked at ISO 27001, we have looked at other technical references or even standards around the world to formulate this. And unlike all the other standards you have seen so far, where it's a one-size-fits-all, like ISO 9000 or ISO 27001, MTCS has 3 tiers, right? Because there's no cloud service provider are identical. Some CSP target the consumer market, some CSP target the enterprise market. To say that the consumer market CSP must have the same level of controls as a enterprise grade or enterprise focused CSP, that's not a fair requirement. Okay, because a consumer, like I think what the earlier speaker mentioned about in Korea, consumers are only concerned about cost. the corporates are concerned about security. So, being two different needs, facing two different set of needs, the CSP most likely will be structured or design the services in a different manner. Okay, so that's why we come up with this 3-tier. Clear so far? Any questions? There's no tier 4 yet, I hope. I don't think that we're going to come with level 4 or level 5. We will still stick with level 2. Level 3, sorry. 3 levels. Now, this is the structure, the basic structure of the MTCS. You have the core information security controls, which are pretty closely related to the PCI, the ISO 27000. Okay. Then you have the cloud-specific information security controls. That's pretty unique to cloud. So, and these are the two big areas. Then you have all these various sub-areas that you can see underneath here. Okay. Again, if you look at it, these are the more detailed structure of the standard. Okay, we started with clause 6. Now, the MTCS in the earlier sections do give a pretty detailed description of the various cloud service model. You have the IaaS, you have the SaaS, you have the platform as a service. And I believe in the standard itself, you also have a table that lists out, depending on the service model, the area of responsibility. For example, infrastructure cloud service provider, legally and even from a common sense angle, is not responsible for the data that you put into your virtual machine. But as a SaaS provider, okay, that's providing a service, would have to take care of your data. Logical? Agree? Any distractor who say that the infrastructure provider should be responsible for your security of your data? No, right? So in MTCS, we also describe in terms of the controls, what are the controls that are applicable depending on the service model that you are operating in or the CSP is operating in. Because not all controls are applicable to a CSP. A classic example I've just mentioned is the data security. You cannot mandate the infrastructure service provider to encrypt your data. It's your responsibility. Okay? As a customer who subscribes to IaaS to encrypt the data on your virtual machine. So that's where the earlier 5 clauses talk about. You may wonder how come we start on clause 6. Okay? So the cloud governance from clause 6 to 12. You got infrastructure security from 13 to 17. Now, even if you are a SaaS provider, software as a service provider, your software still need to run on the infrastructure, isn't it? So even for a SaaS provider, the SaaS provider, even though they may not own the infrastructure, because folks like Dropbox and Netflix, earlier the speaker mentioned about broadcaster running on the cloud. By the way, Netflix is running on cloud. You guys heard about Netflix, right? The video on demand, the pay-per-view stuff. It's running on cloud anyway. So, so in this case, you still have the infrastructure security that's still applicable to a SaaS provider, because the SaaS provider, though they may not own the infrastructure, they have to make sure that the infrastructure provider, be it a cloud provider or a typical data center provider, has to take care of the infrastructure security too. You have the operations management, okay, change management, staff, and so on and so forth. And the cloud-specific infrastructure, cloud-specific info security controls like the service management, okay, the user access, the multi-tenants, and the customer isolation. And these are pretty unique to the cloud environment. And consists of the following clauses. This is in more detail. So you can see that from clause 6 to 12, this is where the governance comes in. Is there an information security management system? The human resource. For example, are the people who are administering your cloud service, are they properly screened? Are they properly trained? Are they competent? Are there regular awareness activities or sessions to keep your administrators abreast of the latest security threats? Release management. Okay, third party. That means that all the suppliers. Legal and compliance. That's where your PDPA staff comes in, for example. Incident management. Does your cloud service provider even know that the cloud service is being compromised to hack other people, for example? Nefarious use for cloud. Now, if you have heard about the CSA top 9 threats, and nefarious use for cloud was one of them. Now, our data governance, PDPA, for example. Okay, Do you know if your cloud service is leaking out your customer data? You heard about the recent scare about Dropbox password being lost, even though it's not lost from Dropbox, it's lost from third-party site, so on and so forth. And I'm not sure whether you heard about a service from Facebook. Facebook now is crawling the whole internet to look for presence or any leakage or password, and they will test it against the account to see whether your password is being leaked. Okay, I'll say this is a public good service from Facebook. You have from clause 13 onwards is a different area. We're talking about infrastructure security. If you can recall in the previous slide, 13 to 17 is the infrastructure security. So 13 to 17 here, we're talking about how the infrastructure is being configured securely and even managed in a secure manner. Now, from 18 onwards, that's where the ops management comes in, 18 to 21. So you have the physical, environmental, and ops, change management, BCP, and DR. Now, for those who are ISO 27001 certified, you will find all these controls areas to be very similar. Okay. Then from 22 to 24, these are the unique to cloud specific. Okay. Again, this is perhaps giving in more detail into the self-disclosure checklist. You mentioned about, I think you heard about Hintian's earlier mention about the registry. In the registry itself, you have the self-disclosure checklist that's been submitted by the MTCS certified CSP. Now, these are the areas of disclosure we actually ask the CSP to disclose. Now, it's going to be a buyer beware scenario here. Okay? We are not vouching. No party is vouching that this information is accurate, but it's an official public representation by the CSP. If any of this born to be not true, as a customer, you have all the legal right to sue the service provider for misrepresentation. By the way, misrepresentation is a suable offense. Okay, but it's a civil offense. It's not a criminal offense. So this is a public representation by the CSP in terms of the right to audit. Do they allow individual customer like you to audit the cloud service? If it's not, put it up front, right? Now, earlier as mentioned, if they do allow, God bless them. If you have more than 365 customers, they will be auditing throughout the whole year. Okay? Compliance, which are the list of laws or regulatory compliance, like the PCI DSS, they're compliant, MTCS, they're compliant with maybe TRM, they're compliant with this and that. For healthcare, could be in the US, it's like a HIPAA compliance. Data ownership. Now, some SaaS provider get around the data privacy concern by stating that very clearly. Whatever data you put on the cloud service belongs to the CSP. Okay? You don't believe? Go and check your Google, your Gmail terms and conditions. Whatever information you put in your Gmail belongs to Google. Okay? If you don't agree to that, you cannot use the free Gmail account. If you want to use your free Gmail account, the data belongs to Google. So, in this case, we force the CSP to be clear and specific about this. You have to tell the user, especially when they use the service, who owns the data. Data retention, how long do you keep it? Now, in EU, I think there's this push for the right to be forgotten. Okay? For example, data sovereignty in terms of the location of the data. Okay? Information non-disclosure. What if the information may be disclosed? Do you inform the CSP? For example, if it's a US hosted service provider, if the NSA subpoena the data through the secret court, would they inform you that it has been requested for by the NSA guys? Availability, we talked about earlier. BCP liability. In the case of any incidents of failure, what kind of remedy do you have? Legal remedy or financial remedy? Now, most of the time, most of CSP will say, I'll give you a waive off a certain charge, for example, for the month. Change management, the cons plan, would they inform you how long, maybe advance notice, do they need to give it to you? For example, 30 days, 14 days, a month notice before they want to do a major version upgrade, right? Recently, I think for those who are in the security sector, you guys know that there was a big critical patch for the Zen platform, which XEN, the hypervisor, which is used by a lot of CSP provider and require a reboot. Now, if the CSP reboot the hypervisor without informing you, you face a business problem. So all this cons plan, they have to disclose it. Do they inform you before they go for a reboot? If they do, what's the length of notice? So on and so forth. On-demand service. Do they even allow you to on-demand self-service, self-provision, self-deprovision the services? There's a lot of cloud service provider in the early years who doesn't allow self-service. Okay, you have to send a request to them and they will take 3 days to provision your service for you. The strict definition of cloud means these guys are not cloud provider. These are virtualized data center providers. So be clear about CSP and VDCs. VDCs are not CSPs. Okay? Any folks who doesn't provide self-service doesn't fit into the definition of cloud and it's universally defined. Incident problem management. Okay? Billing. In terms of metrics they used to build, I think earlier the moderator Chuck was asking about confusion about the pricing. Okay, so over here we force the CSP to disclose what kind of metrics, what kind of chargeable items. Data portability. State clearly what kind of format or procedure, okay, that you allow the customers to access to in the form of exit from your service itself. Okay. In terms of media or format upon termination, export everything CSV, export everything in an Excel file, for example, or export in a certain form of database format. Please state that clearly upfront, so that as a customer like you come in with your eyes open. Okay. If a CSP say no, I do not allow any data export upon termination, and you put that in the CSP registry, please beware. NCCO is not going to say this is a bad CSP. It's your call. Okay. Access to the CSP network. Do they provide maybe V6 support, for example, or even a secure VPN access? User management. Do they integrate with your own AD, for example, your Active Directory? Else your users will have to maintain 2 sets of username and passwords. Do they support 2-factor authentication? The life cycle of the service in terms of the do they maintain the patches automatically for you? Security configuration enforcement checks. Okay. What kind of a mechanism they use to check the configuration of the service is secure? Multi-tenancy. What are the tenancy options? Okay. Elasticity. This is pretty important when I think again Hindia mentioned earlier that some of the key interest area is in performance and availability. State that upfront. Okay, to what level can you scale up to? Can you handle how many gigabytes, Gbps kind of traffic per, during the peak hours? Okay, not only just network but also storage capabilities, CPU scalability, for example. So you have a capacity elasticity, you have the network elasticity, you have the storage elasticity. Okay. Now, the disclosure checklist you saw earlier will provide valuable information for you as a CSC to actually properly evaluate a CSP. And MTCS certified CSP can now, or rather cannot now, hide behind any confidentiality stuff. Okay, they must now disclose this, and this will be publicly. Is the CSP registry webpage up yet? It's up. So it's not public document. Okay, public representation by a CSP on all these areas. Now, of course, the CSP may choose not to disclose certain things. It's all voluntary, but it's a mandatory requirement for certification. They will, as a customer, as a reader, it is now your owners to then ask the CSP, can you provide more information? Because there could be some information they will only provide with an NDA. Okay, so sign an NDA with the CSP and get the information from the CSP. So buyers beware. Just like the financial sector, we are moving more into a disclosure regime where it's buyer beware. Okay. Deployment considerations. I think NCCO has already done it, where they actually make MTCS as a requirement in the bulk tender, the cloud service bulk tender for government agencies. Cross certification. Again, the NCCO team has come up with a pretty good gap mapping documentation, documents between the ISO 27000, between the 2003 version and the 2013 version. So even though you could be certified against the old version of 27001, there's a gap mapping document for you. There is also a gap mapping document between MTCS to the 2013 version. Okay. This one I think has already done it. Okay, and according to you, seeing the CSP registry is already up. Have the URL been disclosed yet? Did Ace Kun mention that this morning? No. Okay. Pardon? Oh, okay. Just go to IDA booth to find out the exact URL. Okay. This is a URL where you can know more about the certification scheme itself. As mentioned earlier, there are 3 levels of certifications. So the idea is to, if you look at the cert itself, you say company X is certified to supply this service at level 2 according to the MTCS standard. Now again, please take a closer look at the MTCS standard. If it's a infrastructure IaaS service provider, CSP, certified against MTCS, and he start to launch a new software as a service, MTCS is did not cover, the audit of the MTCS would not have covered the software as a service. So be clear about what they are certified against. It's like your ISO 9000, your ISO 27001. If the ISO 27001 is certified perhaps in the area of providing secure data center service, it doesn't cover the security of the software service that's running in it. Okay? Validity for 3 years. Okay, and the certified CSP will be subjected to an annual recertification audit. This is to provide assurance to consumers like you or customers like you that, hey, there is an oversight on the CSP. It's not a one-time, off kind of audit where you are certified and then the CSP can remain certified without regular oversight. Okay, qualified assessors. At this moment, there's no lead auditor course for MTCS, right? I received a request sometime this week where a friend of mine was asking me, is there a lead auditor course for MTCS? Not yet. Okay, for those who want to become qualified auditors, I think not yet at this moment. Okay. As mentioned earlier, to become certified, you must complete the self-disclosure checklist. Okay. And also the statement of applicability, which is similar to any ISO audit itself. Because if you are infrastructure CSP, the software controls might not be applicable to you. These are the various CBs. Okay. Any CB in the house? Any folks from CB here? No? Okay. If you are here, maybe you want to give out your name cards or something like that. Cross certifications, as mentioned. So here, there's a gap analysis report. Now, just want to let you guys into something. There'll be a new ISO standard for cloud-specific ISMS. It's called 27017. It should be made a standard next year. MTCS is being recognized as one of the references in the ISO standard. Okay, so whatever investment you put into MTCS will not be watered down the drain. Okay, there are 3 levels of certifications as mentioned earlier. I think I'll skip this. Now, in summary, we have some few slides on to close it up. NCCO is actually actively working with the SAC, the Accreditation Council, to accreditate the certification bodies. Okay, to make sure that the CBs are competent in assessing the CSP for compliance against the standards. Okay. This fee, I believe, is on the CBs, right? So, but there's no CB in the house here, so I'll just skip this slide. Okay. Any certification body again? Last call? No? Now, for those CSP who want to become certified, there's a grant okay, under the Spring Capability Development Grant, available, but there's some conditions. You must be a SME. So if you are a foreign-based CSP, you cannot apply for this grant. It's only for a Singapore-based company. You can get up to 70% of this. Now, for those who want to set up in private cloud internally, just like ISO 27000 certification can be applied to a user organization and also a vendor organization. MTCS can also be applied to a user organization. If you are running an IT shop, you are the head of IT or the CIO within the organization, and you are going to set up a private cloud. How do you show to your boss that my cloud is set up in a manner that can be benchmarked against the industry in terms of security? So this might be an opportunity for you to look at MTCS, and if you are a local organization, you could actually apply for this grant to get yourself certified. So that will cover 70% of the cost, okay, and the first year implementation cost. I don't need to cover the annual audit cost, unfortunately, okay, because that's operational. So in this case, I would highly encourage all of you who are looking at setting up any private cloud to also look at the MTCS standards. Now, not everything is applicable to you. Okay, so that's where your statement of applicability comes in. But the standard, you can still be certified against MTCS standard. Okay, to show to your business management that your cloud service, even though it's private, is not a fly-by-night service. It's a reliable, it's a trustworthy, it's a secure private cloud environment, benchmark against industry standards. So if you are interested to get yourself your own private, or even if you are CSP and a local CSP, you can get yourself. The cost itself will be free. Okay. CSP registry. Unfortunately, there's no URL here. Okay. So if you need more information, look for Yao Sing in IDA booth. Okay. Again, we mentioned earlier, I think Iskun mentioned earlier, and Hindi also mentioned earlier, that this CSP registry is something pretty valuable. And again, kudos to NCCO to set it up. It allows the CSP to represent the kind of service, reliability, and offering to consumers like you and me, okay, or customers like you and me. The certification disclosing what they're certified against. For example, they're certified against infrastructure as a service. They're certified against software as a service, and in what software, for example, maybe providing CRM software. Okay, disclosure. Service benchmarks in terms of availability. As mentioned by Dr. Lee earlier, they're working with vendors to actually potentially provide real-time independent measurement on the availability and performance. Now this is a public good, and I salute NCCO for doing that. Okay. I think recently even IDEA launched this myconnection.sg, which is a mobile app to measure the service level or speed of the mobile service provider. Right. So all these are good work done by our authorities here. And I believe the access to CSP registry is free. Any of you can actually access the CSP registry without paying a single cent. So all this is going to be public information. And again, I believe NCCO is bearing the cost to maintain all this. Again, my salute to the NCCO team for doing a good job. Because you perhaps can't see this being provided in other countries as a public good. Okay. That's all for my presentation. Thank you very much for your time, and enjoy your lunch then. Thank you.